Hello. Hello. Beatty boy. Yep, same old. Losing a bit of control. Parkinson's, as some of you know. I'm not crying and just trying to explain the shaky head, etc., as you know. So it's been delayed since the Queen Victoria broadcast in May. As I ended that broadcast by stating the next broadcast, brought to you by the British People's League, the Dinosaur News. We're going to discuss a chapter in the ongoing... I had to look away, but my eyes couldn't look in the eye. 50 years to do the book. Not weeks, but years. So today we're going to read out what we've got on record. Chapter 2, Plot to Kill John Beatty. Before I read it, I want to point out I've tried to cooperate with sincere patriots my entire adult life. But, hey, what happened. And as many know, I don't mix with a lot of the old-time right-wing patriots, or those who call themselves patriots. And I have good reason. But why bring it up? Well, it's part of what was going on. Part of Canadian history, British Canadian history in particular. A cunning death plot incorporated in the draft Canada's Secret Civil War, 1978, 79, until when? Well, let's get at it. A cunning death plot to have me murdered. By the way, this transcript is published on the British People's League webpage. Just down a few videos, you'll see a link that is not attached to a video. That link gives you everything that I've typed up, for 4 chapters over 50 years. I'm not ashamed. I'm not going to brag, but I'd like to see some of you go through the stuff I've gone through. See what you could have written. A cunning death plot to have me murdered. By whom? Well-known Toronto right-wing characters were to push me out the back of a van speeding along Ontario's Highway 401. Of course, included in their plan was to have me plied with liquor. Oh my. Drunken Beatty found dead in ditch of the 401. John Ross Taylor, an old-time right-winger, was fed enough information about the ongoing war, and especially with choice public news clips. He photocopied the same and passed them on to his rightist contacts with great glee that he was on something big. He even put news I fed him onto his telephone broadcast machine messages. The rightists were terrified. Their lives might not be too comfortable after we succeeded in broadcasting. Our new administration via national outlets. Announcement broadcaster. Check out administrator in Canada's Constitution. The right-wing misfits were too stupid to see that their discovered murder plot was all set up by their own enemy. Mysterious guardians of yours truly appeared out of nowhere, downstairs in the bunker apartment complex across from the old Toronto Wellesley Hospital on Sherbourne Street. They appeared in the downstairs Loblaws part of the complex then, when my wife Hazel, the go-between, as I've said in the past, the go-between myself and the big shots. They never met me personally, the big shots. And what could be said? So mysterious guardians, they appeared in the downstairs Loblaws part of the complex then, when my wife Hazel, the go-between, was just coming off her nursing day shift. My mouth went extra heat on Hazel, as personal friends know. She passed away in 1996. Cancer. Anyway, back to some action here. So she had to pick up a few items from the food supermarket Loblaws. One of the guardians, a well-known Toronto journalist, deceased as well, signaled to Hazel to come over to him at the end of a shopping aisle. He then whispered to her if she or I knew the two men who were at the bread section. They were in the process of picking up German rye bread for yours truly. Hey, they even knew my favorite bread. They sure knew my habits. The enemy and their friends. The conspiracy plan was that the two advanced plotters would entice me. Hazel told the patriotic journalist that she had never seen either of the two, and she said likewise that I did not know the two. Their plan was to get past the doorman and head upstairs to our 7th floor corner apartment. Again, to stress that the entire complex, 565 Sherbourne Street, was laid out downtown Toronto like one massive bunker, with Hazel off shift to look after our two young children, just two back then. I would be free to go with them to hear a righteous speaker at his favorite airport meeting spot at the Toronto International Airport. One of the two inviters conveniently just happened to be the bartender scheduled for the meeting. Why, shucks and golly gee, they didn't have a bottle of brandy, the only liquor I enjoy. Well, enjoyed. And liquor with the Parkinson's, they'd fall asleep in 2 minutes. I hope you haven't fallen asleep yet. Okay, back to the two lads who were trying to entice me as part of a murder plot. One was a Rhodesian South African that I had met at a British church function, also on Sherbourne Street, 313 Sherbourne Street. Hazel did not know of him one time. I met one time. Hazel did not know of him. He was quite arrogant for sure. He and a well-known writer, D.S., took the collection and kept it. Quite arrogant for sure. The other chap, posing as an Australian patriot, turned out, worked out for a well-known intelligence agency in the Middle East. Him I did not know. Of course, JB was expected to welcome the lads with open arms. How could I turn down an invitation from such fine chaps? Especially when they had my favorite bread and booze. I mean, a Rhodesian, South African, and Australian agent. The Australian would have identified all the conspirators with his role being conveniently hushed. by pure flukest of flukes, I was strolling outside the back area of our complex the very afternoon the plot took place at the Harmony Club. And who should I see coming along the back street but two key writers, D.A. and A.L., looking quite nervous and very serious. They did not spot me, spotting them in the cab, being driven by a black cabbie. At this point in time, I knew nothing about the plot. I thought, what in hell are those two doing in a cab when they both own cars? That very afternoon. Well, of course, they did not want their license plates spotted outside while the plot thickened inside. It is believed that E.Z. chaired the meeting of the plot. What a scoop. Did all the key writers figures in Toronto lock up for decades and J.B. dead? And the boys would be without their trusted spokesman. It might well have worked, except for my guardians, the boys. Upon a nod from the journalist in broad daylight and in front of startled shoppers, quickly and silently, some sturdy lads moved down the aisle and neck-grabbed the two conspirators. With hands tightly over mouths, the two would-be murderers were dragged as such to a waiting van out front. The duo disappeared forevermore thereafter. Later on that very Saturday, and well into the evening, the entire screwball armada of writers were swarming the lower level walk wrap around the area of the bunker complex at 565 Sherbourne Street, Toronto, desperately peering up. GU and KA, just two of the many I had spotted, looking up for their two missing buddies. Another of their scum, JP, he lived in Mexico, a half-year run with his Mexican brood, circled and circled the building most that Saturday in his owned taxi. DS even pushed the buzzer at 7 a.m. the Saturday morning after, asking to talk. His voice was quivering, yet demanding to get in and speak to me. Over the intercom, I told him to go to hell, without a mention of his two disappeared accomplices. All the little darling amateurs knew was that their two missing buddies entered Loblaws around 3 p.m. on that Saturday afternoon. Never ever to be seen again. What could they do? Go to the police and report that their co-conspirators on a mission to kill John Beatty suddenly disappeared? Shucks. The very same Saturday of the mysterious disappearance happened to be Halloween evening. Did it ever look cute? Only two sharp, long teeth standing out with the huge candle-lit pumpkin. Eerily carved out eyes. The whole bit. You still must give them all shivers as they peered up to our 7th floor bedroom window from the teeny parquet below. Candles glowing in the spook pumpkin with shimmering effect through the high-rise window. these decades later, do these folks think I've forgotten this episode? And people wonder why I don't make sure Charles right. I'll include in today's reading the next very short chapter. Chapter 3, Big Shots. A shocking enticement below about Bob Rae, the Premier of Ontario in the early 1990s. It is, or should be, considered illegal to use underage children to score a sneaky and underhanded goal. I was ticked off while away from home, but somehow, by hook and crook, jumping in the early 1990s, Premier Bob Rae used 2 of my underage children to be photographed with him on the front page of the Minden Times Ontario newspaper, cutting a red ceremonial ribbon. It was the official opening of a wilderness camp known as Canark. Their full names were illegally published, right under the front page photo of them cutting the red ribbon with Rae, used by Rae without Dad's consent. The massive camp, just outside of Minden, Ontario, Canada, was a supervised escape in the wilds for deprived children. My wife, their mother, was dying of cancer at the time. Surely they must not be named and photographed in a public newspaper opening a camp for deprived children. The reason they were considered deprived was not given, leaving the public with any kind of misconception. They were illegally used by the Premier of Ontario, Bob Rae, and the then sick Liberal Minden Times newspaper owners. Different owners back then. Years later, with full knowledge about Canada's secret civil war, one of my offspring said to me quietly in the car, "I get it, Dad. Their sick purpose was to tell the world, look how we've got Beattie's kids." Surely reading this, you are struck that something most peculiar took place. The Premier of Ontario came up to teeny little Minden to be illegally photographed with 2 of this author's youngest children. What sick and diseased opponents we had and still must tackle. Yes, the plot thickens. The next reading, we're on chapter 4, Constant Attempts to Get at Me. Guess we'll leave that for next reading. So that wraps up Dinosaur News for this September 3rd, 2023. Much more ahead, and I intend to stay alive to get the vote finished. Maybe another 50 years. Okay, that's it, folks. Be sure and check out all of the other videos. Give the history a whole bit. Lots of people say to me that the story must be told, the true story. Well, thank you for listening. And we'll catch you next time. Goodbye for now.